Hello, my name is Ryan Messer, and you're listening to the Life is a Mess podcast. I hope you had a great week. So, this week's podcast is Do not judge others, be your own judge, and you will be truly happy. If you will try to judge others, you are likely to burn your fingers. And this is by Gandhi. So, while this quote does not make much sense at the end, there's a reason for this. And the reason is truly because Gandhi did not speak English, and so when it got translated, it was translated poorly or loosely or however you want to look at it. But it wasn't translated correct, I guess. So through some research, I figured out that the whole burn your fingers part meant that it will burn you and your happiness. And so basically, he I'm going to try and say the quote with the correct English version. So it is, do not judge others, be your own judge, and you will be truly happy. If you will try to judge others, you are likely to burn your happiness and be unhappy in the end. So, with that being said, I'd like to get to my explanation of why I chose this quote. And so, the reason why I chose this quote is because honestly, I'm always thinking about new quote ideas and things that happen to me that make me think, hey, this would be something that I could speak about, or that would be a good topic to talk to you guys about. So when I came up with this, it was the moment when I started feeling myself to, I was judging other people for who they are in my eyes, and, you know, realize that while I'm sitting there judging them, I'm not perfect myself. So why am I sitting here judging them? And it kind of put me down a hole of, well, quite frankly, a lot of things. And I'll get to that later on. But that's the reason why I chose this was because I felt myself judging people, and I didn't like the way I felt when I was doing it. So the reason why, we sit here and judge each other, and I know if you're sitting there thinking, hey, I don't judge people, you're wrong. And if you're sitting there saying, I agree, then you're already one step ahead. So the reason why I say that is because as a society today, we all judge. We all judge everybody. Whether we think we do or we want to, or maybe we just actively do it. And I don't mean judge as in the person that has the gavel that went to school for how many years. I mean, just simply just thinking less of people, or making assumptions that you quite frankly don't understand. So a lot of the things that, is an issue with it is I think where it starts, or the root that where it has started, is we look behind a screen and judge people, and it's made us think that we can do the same thing in public. And, when you're judging somebody behind a screen, you can say honestly whatever you want. They're not going to say a single word back to you. You know why? Because they're not there. But when you're sitting there judging them and critiquing them, they're going to feel that energy, and they're going to feel you judging them. And so really where I'm getting at with all this is that oftentimes we get so caught up with judging others and critiquing them that it ultimately hurts our own happiness. So how does that make any sense? Well, for example, some of the happiest people I know are people who honestly don't care what others are doing or what others think of them. And now, obviously, there's a big difference between being carefree and happy and also being a belligerent person that no one wants to, hang out with or want to be associated with because, well, I think if you can come up with a picture in your head, you know exactly what I mean. So, the judging aspect of judging people is, you're sitting there judging them, and then you're judging yourself because you think that they're judging you, and it just creates a terrible loop of, not anything that's very good. And, like I mentioned, some of the happiest people I know are people who just live carefree and don't judge anybody. And I think that is where, the key is. When people are stripped of, when you look at other countries and look at times when people are stripped of, nothing, you can't judge them. You can't sit there and say, oh, they have this, and so they're poor, or they have that, so they're a bad person, or they do this, so they're bad people. When quite frankly, you don't know anything about this person. I have, and again, if you've been listening to the podcast, you understand that I've went through things in the last couple of years, and I didn't understand half of what I understand now. I wish I did. I look back at so many conversations that I had with people and sit there and think, gosh, I wish that I could have been able to go back in time and say, hey, Ryan, you shouldn't have said that. Hey, Ryan, you shouldn't be judging them for who they are. Because the kid that's sitting there falling asleep in class may not be falling asleep in class because they're, a bad person or don't care about school. It may be because, they have a rough family life. They may work 2 jobs after school. I mean, there's so many other things. And that goes with a lot of things. That's just an example that I can think of off the top of my head that, again, if you're sitting there judging people, it ends up, it's just not a good loop. That's bad. And so, again, it creates this terrible loop of worrying about others and, what they're thinking about you, and you're sitting there judging them, and they're thinking the same thing to you. And not to mention, when you're judging people, you're worrying about something that no matter how hard you try, you cannot change. You can sit there and think this and think that, but quite frankly, at the end of the day, it's the person on the other side that'll do something. So you sitting there judging them and critiquing them and, in your mind, making them feel less of a person, they don't care. If they cared, they'd ask you. And then it's not judging. It's giving advice. So my question is, so why make yourself unhappy judging people when it won't affect them at all? If you sit there and, again, if it were to lead to something that was good and that was, will be beneficial to these people, I understand. And I'll be sitting here preaching the opposite, saying, hey, judge everybody you can. But quite frankly, we both know that's not true. We both know that when you sit there and judge people on stuff that you don't understand and when they haven't asked for your opinion, it doesn't really matter. And ultimately, you sitting there judging them does not make you feel any better. If anything, it makes you feel like worse of a person. And again, I personally can sit here and say that when I hear people judging other people or saying things about other people, and when I sit there and start thinking, bad things about people that I don't know, I try my best to sit there and think, that's not who you should be, Ryan. That's not something that you should be doing, and that's not who you are. And it's taken me a few years to come to this, get past this, but it's something that, in my opinion, has made me a much heavier person and allowed for me to be, happier with myself. So with all that being said, I'll present this week's challenge, and it is to, every time you find yourself judging others, try your best to stop those thoughts and think about something happy. Think about anything that makes you happy. And soon enough, you'll start realizing that the time that you spent sitting there judging somebody ultimately went into being happy with who you are and, making yourself a better person. Because it's a hard job. It's a full-time job. Every single day, you got to make yourself better and happier. And if you're not constantly checking in, you're not going to be doing the right thing. And you end up slipping off. So, as always, let me know how this goes. And if it helps to make you feel better, please let me know. I've been getting, comments here and there, and it means the absolute world to me. So, again, keep them coming, and I do read them, and I do love them. Thank you. So, this concludes this week's podcast, so thank you for listening. I hope you have a terrific week, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Goodbye.